Welcome to Inside the Set with Set Decor. Inside the Set is a series that focuses on the design and decor of stories that excite us and ignite our imaginations, where we get to discuss the collaborations between production designers and set decorators, and hear firsthand accounts of how those works of art came to be, from their inception to ideas on the page through completion, where we sit in the dark and experience them collectively.
Welcome to Inside the Set with Set Decor. I'm Diers SDSA. Today, I'm honored to welcome set decorator Beatrice Brentnerova SDSA and production designer Craig Lathrop to discuss their imaginative collaboration on the stunning Gothic horror NOSFERATU. Beatrice, Craig, thank you for joining me. Let's first start out just historically. We are talking about a film that it's coming out this year, Christmas, and it is not a remake of the original 1920s Nosferatu, the Marinau film. And I want you during this conversation today to definitely contrast why it's not the same and how you guys approached it differently in your collaboration. Because, a lot of shows get remade and this one is not that, and it is an exquisite film, and I've seen it now twice, and it reminded me of like the visuals are almost like a charcoal drawing. The quality and the control you guys have of the palette and the lighting is magic, and I would like to be able to speak to you both about that. Maybe Craig, if you could. You've done a number of films with the director, Robert Eggers, and I'd like you to sort of ease us into first your relationship with him, and then how this film began, and then we will loop in Betta.
That's a bigger story.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I met Rob about 10 years ago when we did The Witch. So I've done all of Rob's feature films. I didn't do his shorts. And so I've known him for years. After The Witch, he mentioned to me that he would love to do a remake of Nosferatu. Now, this was 2016. And then just before we were going to do The Lighthouse, we actually thought we were going to do the Nosferatu. That's the first time I had a script. So I started doing a bit of research then. It fell apart for a number of reasons, as these things do. And we ended up doing The Lighthouse instead, which was probably fortuitous because I think it was good that we did The Lighthouse and then The Northman before we did Nosferatu. Just get a little bit more wind under our sails and have a little bit more experience together doing larger films, which was The Northman for us. So then after The Northman, we started to do it again. And that was about a year before we finally went ahead and did it. I got as far as to go to Prague and start doing some scouting. But then the film fell apart again. And then finally, we were able to get together and start this. I guess it's been a year and a half, 2 years now. That we started Nosferatu. It's very exciting. It's very exciting. Orlock's been in my dreams for years, and I'm super excited that Rob's been able to release him to share all of your dreams.
Right, because he has been really toying with this for a long time.
Yes. Well, his connection to it goes all the way back to childhood.
Yeah. Yes. And apparently he did a school play.
He did a school play that he wrote and starred in and directed, which was picked up by a local theater company, and they remounted it, which got him excited about directing. I'm sure you'll hear this in his interviews. But yeah, very exciting. If you go online, you can find pictures of him as Orlock. As a 16-year-old or 17-year-old.
It's great to have that kind of commitment to a project, and when you finally do realize that it was meant to be, and you put everything into it, and you see that you guys did do that. He's also very much known for having authenticity and strict research. And Bette, I would like you to speak to that a bit because the set decoration seems absolutely appropriate. And I wonder, because you've done plenty of period films and your most recent television show was The Wheel of Time. And so this is a different kind of approach possibly to period. And I'd like you to just speak to me a bit about working with the director and Craig about this authenticity and research.
It's like 2 years ago, I knew that this project is coming. So as I was like, okay, this is my dream to work with these people because I'm a big fan of, Robert. So, I never was dreaming like, okay, I could work on this kind of project, but it came to me and I was so happy, so excited. And it was completely different approach than what I was doing before. And it was like a few weeks ago before I started, Craig sent me a link to his Dropbox saying, I have been doing some of the researches, so you have a lot of things I have been doing so far. So just go through and we will talk later. When I opened the Dropbox, it was a huge amount of research. It was unbelievable. And I was like, I will never catch up, with all the books I bought. I can't do it. I was like, no, it's so many things. But actually, when I went through, it was quite fast. It was so interesting to go inside this Biedermeier ward in 1838 that I fell in love with it. So I knew that Craig and Robert were quite accurate on everything, on every detail. And it's not just detail, it's also like traditions, custom, daily life, everything what is linked to character. Everything had to be somehow perfect and really curated to what we are talking about. So it was a lot of researches, a lot of sourcing where I can get all this stuff. So it was not just going to the prop houses, but also a lot of antique stores, even auctions, art houses. So it was quite exciting, when we were going to all these details. We even went through we met a guy that at a auction house that he said us, okay, I can bid for you in a business-to-business auction, so we could get some rarity pieces. So it was quite thrilling, like every morning. Okay, do we get the piece or not? So yeah, it was every day there was a new research and new knowledge we get. So I loved it. It was completely different what I was doing until now.
And what's also interesting for this film and for set decorating and for production design is this genre, this subgenre of folk horror. And you mentioned a bit about traditions, and I'd like both of you to speak about that because partly that is what's scary to us as the audience, is that thing that we don't know, that we suspect might exist in some other culture that is over there and they have alchemy or witchcraft or something. And so that for all of us, this genre about these kinds of characters, and that's both true of Eggers' other films, and Craig, you've probably been down that path before. But I'd like you, because not all films really embrace this, I'd like you guys to sort of dive into that. If you have any anecdotes about this kind of diving into this Not just because this is a vampire film and that we actually, you guys did shoot in Transylvania, but that it is really approaching something we don't all talk about, which is these kinds of folk stories and how to represent them on film and make it scary.
Well, yes, Robert loves this. And first off, let me just say that our main approach is to try to represent the world as close as we can to what we feel it would look like. You know, we talk about accuracy a lot, we talk about historical accuracy, but it's also, you know, that's just the base layer, and then you have all the regular layers of character and emotional beats and all of those things that you would normally do for any film. But the main thing for Robert is that he really wants it to be a real world. We want to really ground it and bring ourselves there so that the supernatural can feel like it's really affecting real people.
Right.
Now, when it comes to the folklore, yes, you have to work really hard doing research to keep up with Robert. A lot of this stuff is all straight from actual, I mean, this is, when we talk about a vampire and we talk about Orlock as opposed to Dracula, for instance, which is obviously NOSFERATU was a film that was infamously based on Dracula. They were sued by Dracula's widow and his estate and lost for copyright back in 1922. But Orlock, as opposed to Dracula, is much more of a folk vampire. And in that, what I mean is he is much more of somebody who is dead and has been reanimated. He doesn't have this magical ability to become beautiful and to shapeshift and trick you that way. He is a monster. And so that's how we approached it. And you'll see lots of little things in there that you don't necessarily know just from our normal lore of Dracula. For instance, you know, staking the vampire in the very beginning. There's a shot where we're staking the vampire, and it's an iron rod. It's an iron stake because that's what was originally used, not the wooden stake, an iron stake, and they stake him through the navel. The reason why isn't because the stake is going to kill the vampire, but you're literally staking him to the ground so he can't get out of the grave.
Right.
So you're pinning him to the ground so they can't get out of the grave. That's what they were originally doing with the stake. So that's what you know, we tried to recreate that a bit. And so, you know, it's what's fun about doing this sort of job where you're looking at the research and you're really finding out about old folklore is that you get to revive it, and it's extremely interesting. I think, and it's familiar, but it's not. And I think that's what helps make it such an interesting way to tell the tale.
I noticed when they go to, and because I'm a decorator and because I also was an art director for years, but the details in the set decorating in the Transylvania Inn, and I zoomed into some of your photos, Beta, and there is like this piece of cloth behind the bed, and I wonder, is that something that you guys found in your research, or is that something that was done to make the frame more interesting? And if so, can you speak about that? Because to me, those are part of the things that make it authentic and frightening.
You know, I got a chance to have a great buyer in Romania.
Oh,
So he was hunting textile and all these small details, furniture for us, and he was just great. So first of all, he came to us with a lot of books. So, you know, but of course, all the books were in Romanian. So we have been translating everything through Google, and it was very interesting. So we went through this guy, and he was just great. And we had also a Romanian advisor who who was on a email, and he came even to see the set afterwards. So all our question he answered, and it was our biggest source of information. Yeah, and it was this set Transylvania was just magic. What Craig was building. We just enter into the set, and it was just wow. Okay, it's a little bit itching, and it's cold, and you already felt the atmosphere, and all these textile and fabrics, it has a meaning. Everything is symbolic. Every small flower or ornament, it was a symbol, it was a protection. It was very interesting, to go to all these details. And the fabric that we get from our buyer was just a huge. I loved it.
I bet. Can I just ask a question here? As we're looking at this photograph, again, I was zooming in. Am I seeing two mirrors next to those candles? And then if so, I want to segue into talking about lighting.
You're seeing mirrors in there for Jaron Blanchkey was putting mirrors in to help reflect the light. So that wouldn't have been seen in the show.
No, but I do want to pull back the curtain and talk to you guys about the lighting, because this again is not a normal film, the way you guys had to approach this period lighting, and both you for creating sets that will allow light in, and then Beta for providing practicals. Can you guys speak a bit about how you guys approach the lighting, both historically and then practically, and what kind of crazy obstacles there were in either built sets or locations?
Well, all of the you should ask Beata about the lighting, not necessarily in Transylvania and the Romanian Inn, which is mainly candles, but all the lanterns from the Biedermeier era, I'll let her tell you all about, because she found this fantastic collector who allowed us to rent a lot of his collection, and more importantly, Beata actually built quite a lot of the lighting, because we needed replicas that we could electrify for Jaron. And so she and they did a fantastic job, because it was important to me. I mean, lighting is always difficult, right? And so it's hard to get really good 1838, 18 and earlier lighting. But Beata, I'm sorry, I jumped on this. You should.
No, this guy from Germany, Gerd, he had a huge but great collection of period lighting. It's something I never really saw. And he was so kind that he came to Prague with some types of the lighting, and he showed all to us how it works, the meaning of the lamp, for what was the purpose, and so we could see how it works, what the light it makes, and the real size, because we actually, we can see all these lighting on pictures, on images, but to see them in real, how delicate they are, what the glassware is, it's completely different. And he was so kind that we could rent some of the stuff from the collection. But some of them I was so afraid that we can't break them, that we made a replica after what he rent us.
I mean, like the Knox office, the lighting there was beautiful, and same with the hospital, and of course all through Hardings' house. Yeah, this one is candles. This picture, you can see a little bit of the lighting there. You see a light on his desk.
That office, I have to tell you, there are two sets in this film that just knocked me over. And that reception room and then Knox office is one, and then von Franz's attic apartment was another one. This one, it just seems so real. And tell me where, like, I was a little confused at first that he became the guy who's crazy. After my second watching of the film, then I realized, oh, he pulls back the carpet of this office, and there's the pentagram and all the rest of the craziness. Tell me about that process of putting together this set then, because this is just gorgeous. It's full of that, the books and the furnishings, and again, so there's this satanic
Solomonari is what those symbols come from. They actually come from something. We did a lot of research figuring that out. I just want to say, I'm going to let Beata talk about this, but I just want to say there's a picture up on the screen right now, and they did an amazing job of really handwriting all of this paperwork. I mean, obviously not all the bundles, but all of the ledgers and everything. It's all in German, so I was of little help other than to say, please keep doing what you're doing, because it's fantastic. But the detail that was on the set I thought was amazing. Thank you, Beata.
It was quite interesting because, usually when you are making office, office are quite boring actually, as I said, but this one was exceptional, and with all these research and pictures that we found, we could really go into the details and find all the stuff and we were purchasing a lot of stuff, but we were making a lot of stuff, and so by handwriting, binding of books. We had a great paintress, so it was a huge job for them, and so I rent some furniture from France, some from England, some we had to make. And this magic and quite spooky vibes of occultism. It was for me. It was a big challenge. It was the same for France set, because to make it right, I have to really understand what is going on, what are all these details, what the story is actually. So an occultism, to be honest, occultism for me before doing this film, it was quite something I was not in really. I met a guy who was from a documentary center of Czech Hermetism. Was a guy who worked for National Library, and he told me a lot of things about occultism. I met him several times, really to understand all these details, to make it right, and to understand all these connections. And it was quite difficult for me. I met him several times, and then I was like, no, for me it's so far away. I can't really. It's difficult for me. And when I met him fifth time, and we have been speaking about planets, and I asked him a question, and he responded to me. It was suddenly, that's it. Okay, and finally I got released. Okay, that's what all is about. And it was really one moment, and it was not what I was asking. It wasn't the question. It was how he said it, because I felt that until now, there were limits. He was not saying me everything. There were something like, okay, you are not ours, so I can't tell you everything. It was, and it was this moment that I was like, he let me to go inside, and it was the moment was, wow. So now I can do these two sets right. Yeah. So for me, it was a big a revelation.
Yeah, and it's interesting when those doors open, and you never know on each show, what the script is going to call for, and the characters, and the kind of environments. And the beauty of both of your jobs is to just, dive into this. And for you to like have that aha moment where the light bulb goes off and you're like, now I can get inside the character. Now I know what they're doing. Now I know that this doesn't work, and that is the reason that this is here, and all of those kinds of the way you make choices.
Yeah, because to really understand the character, you have to actually, and to be really in this period, you have to somehow like reprogram your mindset. You have to start to think like people of this period would think, because if you do it, and if you do it right, immediately you start to dress differently.
Yeah.
To think differently, to find the beauty in different things. So
I will tell you as an audience member that going that extra mile makes a difference, and it shows on the screen. And I think that's why everybody is speaking about the production design and set decoration of this film. Craig, I'd like you to also speak in a grander scale about the construction, building, and marrying both locations of, let's say, the castles or the street scenes to the interiors, because we haven't spoken about each of the characters' interiors necessarily. The big picture, how we get there.
Yeah, so first off, we built most of it. We built almost all of the interiors. We built all of the exteriors except for the castle. That is Corvin Castle in Romania. When they're approaching it, and then the courtyard of the castle is Pernstein Castle in the Czech Republic. But
Okay.
All the interior castles are built. All the street scenes those were all built.
Oh, wow.
The outside of the exterior of Hardings' house, that was built. We built a lot. So the reason why wasn't just because we wanted to build things. It was that, well, take them one at a time. So the castle, we looked at a lot of castles, especially all the ones in the Czech Republic, which are beautiful. There's some absolutely stunning castles there. The problem is they're almost all beautifully whitewashed and, ready for the tourists to come through. And that wasn't what this character is. I mean, Orlock needs to be decaying and almost diseased. So we ended up building, all of the interiors. Now this is just some concept art that we did. Oh, this is the crypt. We built the crypt as well. And Beata built these sarcophagus. And then the main sarcophagus in the back was sort of a joint venture. Yeah, that's that one. So this was a set.
And I just remember what I loved about that last photograph there of that crypt is a couple of things. I'm noticing how the floor, either how the crypt was built into the rock on the right side of the frame, or that there's so much debris in there that was swept away. Like there's a story to this very stark interior. Again, the lighting is gorgeous. And then like the floor decaying off to the left of the frame, where conveniently there's a pickaxe, or you don't even know what it is. It just looks like either somebody, like the water washed away the floor, or
yeah. Well, so there is a bit of a story in there that I don't know if people will get. So on the right side of the frame, there's the tiles that have been pulled up.
Mm-hmm.
There's the pickaxe, and if you look, there's a hole that's been dug in the dirt. The rock is coming down from the right side. On the left side, you can get down into the dirt. That's because the dirt is in the sarcophagus, because Orlock's about to leave, and he needs to have he needs to sleep in the dirt that he was buried in originally every night. So that's what that is all about.
But again, supporting the folk mythology.
Supporting the folk mythology, absolutely. And then conveniently leaving a pickaxe for later on in the scene.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and so there's some sequences where I see in your design this repeating arch. And is that part of your a design motif that you guys wanted to return to? Again, we're seeing one here. We see a lot of them in this film.
Gothic arch. I mean, we certainly wanted it to be a Gothic castle. And so Even though these, all these sets are built and, well, not even though, because they were all built, we wanted to make sure that it also felt like they were all part of, the same place. Yeah, so it was a Gothic castle. So that's, you see the repeating motif there. And then later on, when you get to, we did have vaulted arches in a couple of sets.
This shot again, here and repeating that same thing with the arch behind him, and I thought, was this something the director and you worked on? There's a certain amount of symmetry in a lot of these stills that you sent us, and I wondered if that was something that Robert wanted or your DP.
Well, you know what? It has more to do with, I've done several shows with them now. So I know that they like a very formal frame
Okay.
and that they tend to shoot symmetrical. And so not so much that we discussed it, which we did, and they storyboarded everything. But you know that when you're designing something, you're setting it up for if you know the director well enough to know how they're going to shoot something, you want to present them with things that will, work with the way they like to work. So I don't think we talked about that specific window, but for sure.
Well, so that's, oh my God. So here's the thing that you guys working on this show is another reason probably to build these sets is that rumor has it that you guys had 5,000 live rats on these sets.
We did. Well, in this set, this is the main rat set. This is another set we built in the back lot. This one I built on the back lot because we needed to, there's a bit of a burn. So what you're seeing there though, on the ground, those are actually what we were calling rat mats that we made. We took a bunch of rats and built sort of a little bit less than a meter by meter mat that was flocked and had tails, and there was these rats so that we could put them in and they would be in the background, and then the foreground would be 5,000 live rats, and then visual effects would have a base that they could then animate rats moving over these rat mats. But what you're seeing there is literally, those are just our rat mats, and that's the sarcophagus again.
Is that going to be as part of the marketing campaign maybe for Halloween in 2025?
You know what? I hear rumor that they've reproduced it now. They've done a couple of reproductions of that sarcophagus.
I was thinking of rat mats.
Oh, the rat mats. I don't know if anybody else knows about the rat mats.
No, I'm just hearing of it now.
Talk about it. Actually, our prop master made these for us, Franta, and he did a fantastic job. I thought they worked really well. I mean,
I love the tricks behind the trade. I'd also like to speak a little about some of our heroes, especially, I mean, certainly the Hutter house, but the Hardings house is an exquisite example. This guy is a shipping magnate, or at least successful in the shipping industry, Aaron Taylor Johnson's character. And there is an opportunity, I guess you guys embraced, to have color at this point in the film, because it doesn't become, as I said earlier, maybe a charcoal drawing or as sort of controlled palette. Here we start to get a little color. And I'd wonder if you guys could speak to that, where we do have a breath of life, where there's children and a future.
Well, I mean, in the big picture side is we wanted somewhere to go as well. So we start with the Hardings, and we see, and when, I don't want to tell the whole story, but you probably see the story anyway.
Yeah, I know.
This picture of the children's room.
Yes.
I love that Beata actually built that so we could have the two headboards together. And I don't know what you call that in the back, Beata, the board in the back, but she built that. It's amazing. So anyway, so we wanted to have somewhere to come from, right? So you're going from this to the castle, basically, because Hutter leaves here and he travels to the castle. So, and the world of the Biedermeier world is quite colorful and quite remarkable, and the wallpapers are amazing. I mean, here, once again, Beata was able to do some custom fabrics for me that we did the walls with. Here's some more of her work. But anyway, getting back to, yes, we wanted to be able to go from colorful to not colorful. And we knew that Jaren, as we get to the night work, was going to be lighting it in such a way that it was going to desaturate everything. So it would go from bright to a lot less bright. One of the little tricks, I just noticed that you showed us some pictures of plants, and plants were very popular in this period. House plants were. So we had house plants in the house. But as the plague comes, if you'll notice, the plants all die.
I did notice that.
Yes.
Oh, that's a great touch. There is a moment in the Hutter ante room, or just the room off her bedroom, just as Nosferatu is coming, and there is a plant off to the side. And again, Beata, I don't know if this was deliberate or if this came from the director, but Nosferatu's shadow is in the sheer of the drape, and next to it is a plant that looks like it's doing that typical Nosferatu claw there on the left of the frame. Was that deliberate, or is that just something that happens subconsciously?
I think that this exactly it just happened unconsciously, but generally, all the plants that we choose, they were somehow like imperfect and a little bit spooky. There was something, a little bit something unsettling with all the plants. for the set. So we were buying plants that nobody would buy actually for the house. So that was.
I saw this also in your package of things you sent. I noticed many of things you rented, and on your boards, your presentation boards, you show which prop houses or vendors you're getting things from. And I thought it was unusual that plant stand, which is now in the left back corner, was manufactured. Can you talk to me about that choice? Is that was it part of that stunt earlier, or is it?
There were some furniture and items that had to be like breakaway. So usually we found a real one and then made a copies. So it was the case of this one. So we had, I had quite a good team of people of cabinet maker included in our crew, which was great. And but some of the veneer stuff we made to make in a company in somewhere else. But a lot of things we have been actually purchasing, refurbishing and reupholstering. Some of them we have been refurbishing them in our workshop, and some through a company or through a professional restorer who worked with the veneer stuff. And it was quite interesting because I didn't know that to restore true Biedermeier furniture, the veneer one, the veneer, we can't find it. This old veneer was quite specific, was thicker and was a little bit different what we find now. So actually the guy, he had to hunt some other furniture that he couldn't save. He stripped out the veneer of that furniture to save one that we chosen for our set. So it was everything was, each piece of furniture were really had a story. It was never so easy.
It is never easy, and I love just these kinds of stories in films of the things you do that are no one else would know, that that you are literally skinning a piece of furniture, tearing its veneer off so you can use it to manufacture that, or to make rat mats. These crazy tricks we do on films. I also noticed that you guys made this heater, which I have seen in many of my research, and by the way, never seen one so beautiful ever in any prop house. You guys probably were looking for one and decided to make it.
Exactly right. We couldn't. Beata found, well, there's a couple of stoves that she did find that are absolutely beautiful. The one in in the guest room, I think is beautiful. I think you found
Yeah,
that in
yeah,
Paris.
yeah.
That one. That one
Yes.
she found in Paris, but we couldn't find the big one. And even when we found some that were close, they were very expensive and they were very heavy and fragile. And so we chose to, we just chose to build it. It's, I'm very happy the way it came out. But you can see there's a repeating pattern. So, you know, we manufactured a couple of panels and then we cast them and did them that way. I'd like to go back for just 1 second though,
Yeah.
and brag a little bit about Beata's work in especially in the Hardings, because all of that furniture, not some of it, all of it was reupholstered and refurbished, and there's a lot that she ended up building. Some of it was because it was a stunt, like the attaché and the plant stand that you just saw.
Yes.
But some of it was, was built because we couldn't find it, and we thought it was very interesting piece. I love the little, in the Hutter's house, if you'll see, which I don't know if it's really understandable, but it almost looks like there's a birdhouse on the wall.
Yes.
That was a piece of research that, yeah, this. So this is actually, if you don't have enough money for a clock and a pocket watch, you hang your pocket watch in that little hole,
Oh
and
my
it
God.
could be it could be your clock on the wall before you go out for the day, and then you take the pocket watch out and you put it in your pocket and you go about your day. So that's just another little tiny bit that I don't know if people will get, but and for instance, in this picture, the mirror she made because we couldn't find one that fit what we wanted to do. I mean, there's a lot there. And I believe you made that stool too, didn't you? I think so. I think
Not this tool. It was purchased, but there were a lot of things, a lot of small details that we have been doing.
yeah.
All
Well, and I had her get me these stools. I'll say this just because of Linda Muir. Linda was our costume designer, and she did a beautiful job, I believe. And one of the things that she had was for the Ellen character, who was not wealthy. Her corset was a very special corset that you could actually tie yourself. So all the strings wrapped around to the front, and you can actually pull it together yourself. You didn't need a servant to tie you into your corset. And we wanted to be able to see that because it was really gorgeous. So I said to Beata, let's find something that doesn't have a back, some sort of stool. She found these beautiful stools so when Ellen sits in them and you look at her from behind, so when the camera comes in from behind, we could see the beautiful outfit she has on, and it doesn't have a back covering it. So that was.
Yeah, what was quite interesting that when we went deeper and deeper in all these details, and you found out actually how people they like to entertain, they actually like to have fun. So we found a few rarity pieces, like Craig, if you remember in the Harding living room, this cage with taxidermy bird,
Yes.
this music cage. It was so, I don't know if it was featured in the film too.
It doesn't end up being in the film. I mean, it's there, but it doesn't end up being used. What those were actual mechanical. You can see it in the very background.
I zoomed into
shots.
it. Yes.
So those are mechanical birds. You could actually wind it up. She had it working. It was from the period, and you wind it up, and the birds were like animatronic, and they would move around and tweet, and it was magical, actually.
Yeah.
So we had a scene earlier with the kids when they were playing, but I don't think it made it as a featured piece into the final.
There's a lot of work that goes into these films that, maybe, like you say, if that scene was cut or whatever, that it still reads. The audience gets it. Beata, can you tell me why there are two cushions here? Is that for the children, or was that?
No. Actually, this period there were a lot of cushions that were made to be on the floor, like protection, like the drafty interiors. So often there were cushions on the floors.
Put your feet
to
up.
get, yeah, to get your feet warm.
Right.
So yeah, so it was also in a bedroom. It was put in front of the chairs or armchairs.
I saw it in the bedroom too. It's funny, these kinds of things that you've come up with in your research. I tell you, I think, Home Goods should come up with like a new version of this. I like the idea. My house, I'm in an old house and my house is drafty, and I might copy that idea, because you take your shoes off and then your feet are cold and you just want to put them on something.
My favorite of that drafty bit, which I want to steal, you can't see it in this picture, but in the window, if you could see the windows, and this was in the Hutter house as well, they have little bolsters that sit at the window, so if there's a draft, it stops the draft from coming through. And honestly, they're brilliant.
I see them there.
See them there in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's to keep the house warm if it's drafty.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, yeah. We could here we used actually the original fabric that we bought a lot of pieces of original fabric 200 years old, and as there were small pieces, so we used them for all these details like cushions and these bolsters, you say, in the window. Yeah, it was.
so these exteriors, and me finding out halfway through this interview, that wasn't a town. I swear to God, I thought that was a town.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, you know what? It's high praise. Thank you so much.
My God, yeah. So let's go into that.
Yeah, so here's all the exteriors. Obviously, we did a lot of research to figure it out. There's sort of 4 or 5 main exterior areas. There's what we were calling it the Market Street. And you can tell these all had top-ups as well, which we designed for visual effects to add. And then there was the Old Town, which was more of a medieval section. So this was all built. You can see where we wanted to make sure like the buildings are sagging. And what I really was proud of is that we were able to get all the buildings, even on Market Street, everything to be leaning a little bit this way and that way. Nothing was square, nothing was plumb. So it's hard to see that things are out of square when you just see them, but when everything is perfectly crisp and looking new, you do see it. So I was really happy that we were able to achieve that. Anyway, this is the old part of town. Then there was a street going down to the wharf area, the harbor.
Yes.
I called it the Harbor Street, but there was an even older, more rundown area walking up to Von Franz's house, which was another exterior that we built. And all of these were all built to sort of, this is looking out onto more medieval, but it's actually on the end of the Market Street, so we get to double up things. When you go down Market Street, you turn one way and you go through a tunnel, and then there's a cut in the middle of the tunnel with a wipe, brings you to another tunnel that comes out on a different part of Market Street where we see Knox office, so that we can get a little bit more out of it. And then I also built another big section, which is the Harding house exterior, and they live on a canal. Yeah, so this is the concept art of what we wanted to build. I added a tunnel on the end, is like a little guild house you see.
Wow.
I added a tunnel so that we could do some of this deep background and visual effects and trap it a little bit, so that we had all the foreground and midground, and some of the background is real, but we were able to extend it a little bit further. And this is another bit of concept art, looking at the old town. This is the exterior of the Romanian village, or the Transylvanian Inn, I should say. And you can see the Roma camp is there. It looks a little bit empty in the middle, and even this bridge, which I really love that we built, but in reality, this was built for the action. And you want to really see from the left to the right, which I don't think I have a picture of, which shows you smaller little bridges that they went over. And a lot of that was taken straight from, I did some research. I did a trip to Romania where I went to a couple of outdoor museums, and I took a lot of pictures and stole a lot of ideas from them. And then this is the Roma camp that Beata did such a beautiful job of decorating. You
Was
know,
that a build, Craig? Is that in and a build?
yeah, this is all a build.
You did a thatched roof?
Yeah, we did all of this thatched roof. Yeah,
God.
we built all of this, including the interior as well. The interior and the exterior were on this location. And you know, the interiors were a little tricky for Jaron. One of the things I noticed when we went to this open air museum where they had sort of gathered old buildings and placed them all together, right? It's quite remarkable. Was that the windows were so small. They were so small. So it was good that we were doing mainly night stuff there because there was no way to pull light in if we kept the windows at the appropriate size. You'll notice if you look closely in the Transylvania Inn,
Yeah.
around the windows there was whitethorn, which is the plant that they use to make the thorn crowns.
Okay.
So that's to ward off evil and to keep everything out. So, you know, and that was even around the whole gate on the outside. Yeah, so if you look around the window, somebody's placed whitethorn because they're worried about the vampire. And so that will keep him out. That's one of the things that we have. And I don't know if you can see, but what's hanging up on the wall just to the left of the bed is, and in the very corner, those are icons that that Beata's team painted. And there's a really interesting kind of, I mean, I don't know if this is maybe a little bit too much information, but there's two different kinds of icons. There's ones that they painted on wood, which is what you would expect. But in that period, they painted a lot of reverse on glass icons. So we have several of them here. And where else were they, Beata? Do we use them? I know we used them probably as we were carrying them.
Yeah, they were carrying them going to the forest cemetery, actually.
Yeah, the forest cemetery.
Mm-hmm.
And then the forest cemetery and the shrine on the way, there's a bunch of hand-carved crosses, tons of them.
Mm.
And there's an icon there too. There's an icon on that shrine. Yeah, and then when we get to, yeah, so this is all Beata's dressing here. We did find this carriage at a carriage museum outside, about 2 hours outside of Prague, and I'm sorry, but I can't remember the name of the museum, but they lent me a couple of things.
I zoomed into the railing on that carriage too, and it's not a typical United States Western carriage. I mean, that detailing again on just the woodwork felt again like we're somewhere, and somebody knows specifically where we're at, and you guys were those people, because there's also a tent in the foreground in one of the shots where there's just a bunch of twigs leaning against the tent, and I'm like, is that just real, or is that just there to be creepy, like that creepy plant in the previous discussion?
I think a little bit of both.
Yeah.
It is supposed to be, you know, real.
On the side of that tent, I look at that and I'm like, oh, that is just, it just adds creepy to creepy.
Well, what's interesting is we found some really old photographs and paintings of Roma camps. And the way that they use just about any kind of heavy fabric to sew it together to create these tents, this comes directly from the research. And it's really quite something. You know, we toned it down a little bit because when you see all the different colors and patterns sewn together, it was a little bit loud. But we just assumed that they've had them for a while. So if we could just let them get dirty and sun bleached a little bit, we'd be happy with the results, which is what we did. So yeah, she did a fantastic job. She's right here. She could say something if she. Yeah.
No. I just remember, you know, dressing this, that actually we became a gypsy, you know.
Yeah.
Really to dress it.
Roma. We had a bunch of our background characters and our handsome man, who truly was a handsome man, They were all Roma from, most of them came from Romania and had come over. And they brought a life to it that was really amazing on set that day. It was really fun. The dancing and the singing that you see in this in the scene, all of that was scripted and as you would think. But the truth is, when we weren't shooting, they were dancing and singing, and they were bringing a lot of fun to the set. It was really incredible group.
Those are kind of priceless experiences that you get on making a film and doing this kind of research. You know what? Why don't you talk just a second then also about this vehicle, the carriage?
The carriage, we were calling it a ghost carriage, not because they're ghosts, but because there's no driver.
Right.
So that's the interesting thing about it. So we built this. We
Oh,
found a frame so that the wheels came off of a much more Western looking wagon. And then we did appliques around the wheels and the hubcaps and all of that. And then we built the rest of it. And Beata did a fantastic job with the fabrics and the canopy over the top. I mean, it's loosely based on a carriage that Queen Elizabeth I gave to the Tsar of Russia. Can't remember which one, but the Tsar of Russia. And so that was my first piece that I loved. There was a few other carriages that I saw that I really loved, but that's, we were trying to go back. This was Orlock's carriage, so more of the 1600s as opposed to the 1830s.
right, because that's when he died.
Because that's when he died.
Yeah.
This is his stuff. And so, yeah, this is just, there's no driver. It just goes in. So what's interesting about it is there's a second top that's sort of half a top so that we could have an actual driver inside it that you couldn't see when you were driving. And the door had to open automatically. I don't know if you can see, but there's bas reliefs that you really don't see in the film, but there's 8 panels that have bas reliefs that we carved to put in there, which if you could see them, they were images of war and very much Vlad the Impaler inspired moments. And then the Dacian dragon or wolf on the outside, which is really what we used as the symbol for Orlock. If you'll notice on his sarcophagus, there's a bunch of Dacian wolves, and I think those were probably taken from the Trajan column. That's research. That was a sarcophagus that I found, and this is the concept art, and then that's the real one, sarcophagus that we built. And those little feet that they're on, those are Dacian dragons, a wolf head, yeah, with a more like a snake body. And the inspiration from that was right off of Trajan's column, which is one of my favorite pieces of archaeology. So, that if you look at Trajan's column, it's the story of the Romans conquering the Dacians. So that's where that comes from.
Again, this film is not only just a feast of beautiful visuals, but apparently a history lesson too.
Beata did, in my humble opinion, a really spectacular job.
Yes.
She had an incredible crew. No matter what I threw at you, Beata, it seemed like it was never a problem. You have to build furniture, fine. You have to carve. There's a lot of carving they did. There was wallpaper that we made. They did a fantastic job. And so thank you so much for highlighting that for the world.
Thank you. I had a great boss. So, it was a big pleasure to work with Craig. So I had a great team and I had a great boss. So that's what we need.
There's a lot of detail in this film, like a lot of films, and there's a lot that you don't see, but you never know where the camera's going to be. So you want to make sure it's there. And once again, just because we didn't have a chance to sing Beata's praises about this, if you were to be on set, every desk, like in the Hardings house, where the rear room is, where the billiard table is, you'll see there's a desk in the background that's Harding's desk. If you were to look at that desk, you'll see business papers that are all handwritten in German and facts and figures from his shipping. If you looked there, she has all the paperwork there, as if somebody's just stepped up from doing their work. The detail is there.
Yeah,
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to try to get all that detail in, and I will say, Beata, you smashed it.
It was a really joy, joy to do this set, all of them. But this one was quite special with all these details. And what I loved the most was a Christmas tree.
Oh yes.
As I love, I love Christmas generally and all traditions that goes with it. So Christmas tree was, was a huge for me because, we have.
Tell them about the ornaments.
Oh yes, the ornament. We have been, researching the period decoration and period tradition, and actually we found out that in this period there were already bubbles, the glass bubbles, but not this silver one we know today, but they were clear. And to decorate them and make them interesting, they fill them with wax and just the hand painting on it. We found a few references. We went to go to Christmas museum in Germany. And at the end, we found a Czech company in the mountains that still keep this old clay mold of these 200 years bubbles. So they were so kind that they remade for us this old stuff, these old bubbles, like fruits, nuts, and so we had them, and in our workshop we filled them with the wax, with colored wax. We made all this experience, and it worked.
It worked. It looked like it was pearlescent. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was absolutely beautiful.
It was great, and so we make not just these bubbles. We made also the paper one, the paper decor, the wire details, wire decoration. So it was a real joy. We chose a tree, Christmas tree, not the fluffy one, not the symmetrical one, but a little bit sad, a little bit wild, spruce, that everybody who saw it was like, you mean it?
Yeah.
Never. You would never put this in your apartment. Yeah, but it was just alive, it was how it was. And I think it worked quite well with this apartment, that it was first happy, decorated, and there was a hope, and there was a future. And suddenly, but things went wrong, and Orla was coming. Everything became a little bit, like spooky, a little bit faded. So it worked quite well for this Christmas tree as well.
Yeah, I noticed on that clip that are those electric lights? Those aren't live candles, are they?
Those are candles.
They're live candles?
Live candles.
Oh, you guys, that's.
Well, we had live candles, and did we have the electric ones for that scene?
No,
We had a bit of that.
I don't.
Those were live candles, yeah.
Real life candles. So they had to be additional people on a set because of the safety, always between shots to keep them safe. So
yeah, we had a couple of candle wranglers.
Yeah.
And that tree, that was pretty much from the research we had from I can't remember which queen or king.
The Austrian one.
There was a couple of paintings from around this period, and a little bit earlier. both Germanic and then also a little bit later in England that we used. You know, because we had the tree on top of the table as opposed to the tree on the ground and things like that. Yeah, it was great. I like that scene. I actually really like that scene.
Yeah.
And it was live candles. I do remember now partially because Willem Dafoe lights his pipe from the candle on the tree. I've worked with him a few times. I've worked with him as an art director before the Rob things. I art directed a really small film called The Boondock Saints, which came and went without anybody seeing it, but then became a bit of a cult classic back in the days when we had video stores. So yeah, I think I've worked with him, what is that, 5 times, something like that. He's a fantastic person, by the way. He's really lovely. We all have seen how brilliant he is, but it's nice to know that he's also a really decent human being and a lovely person.
What splendid work. I have to thank you both. This has been a joy, just first of all, educationally, but also just to be able to dip into both of your brains of how you approach something which could be at the beginning, like you said, just overwhelming. And in the end, I get teary-eyed just thinking about recreating such perfect period interiors so that the audience in the future understands what the Biedermeier period looks like. You guys have done what a museum would want to do and what educators would want to do. And instead of us, you know, again, as filmmakers, putting up some sort of campy vampire thing, you know, this is like letting us into this culture, these folk traditions that are not everybody knows, and this is a beautiful, frightening window into that period. Bette, is there any of the vendors that you would like to call out, of your vendors that you had, any of whether it's SDSA vendors in Europe or that you had used here on the show?
You know, basically we have been purchasing a lot of things, you know, and purchasing mainly in Europe. I'm not sure, but you know, we get great stuff from London, from England, from Harley. So and Samuel and Son fabrics, all these fringes and old style stuff. So yeah, so I think that's it, because we have been having a lot of Europe.
People love all of that. Oh, you guys, this has been great. Your film looks fantastic. I look forward to seeing more of your beautiful work in the future. Again, thank you for doing this inside the set with Set Decor. This film, NOSFERATU, I've now seen it twice, is really a beautiful piece of work. You guys should be very proud.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for this lovely chat.
What a great chat. Yeah. From all corners of the earth.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Inside the Set with Set Decor. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and visit our website, setdecor.com.